This video is powered by the pros at Pascal Air Plumbing and Electric. Arkansas owned, Arkansas operated. GoPascal.com.
Joined here on a Wednesday edition of Halftime by Bill King from Nashville Sports Radio, host in the morning 6 until 9, the king of college football talk. And Bill, I would say happy National Signing Day, but today just feels like an afterthought. Although there are kids putting their name on the dotted line, and we've got press conferences from coaches and everything. So is this eventually going to be back to regular signing day in the near future, though?
They're talking about it. December's too busy. It's just too much with the portal beginning in December, with what could happen with coaches, poaching, rosters. It's an ill-fated idea from the beginning. What they ought to do is let you sign somewhere in the summer before your senior year, if you're really that sure about it, and obviously start it before August camp begins, sometime maybe in July, and then let them sign again in the first Wednesday in February. What they've done is they've taken Christmas Day, which was always the first Wednesday in February, for decades and decades, and they've killed it. They've destroyed it. And you're right, a couple of guys, Nicholas Harbaugh, who is an absolute freak, 6'5", about 230 out of the D.C., Maryland area, and is a world-class Olympic speed guy at that size, is going to sign with South Carolina. So that happened today. That was a good pickup for them, but it's really not a big deal.
Yeah, I just saw that. He looks like a stud, man. He looks like he can play a couple of different positions. We were talking earlier about the OC job at Alabama. Do you think Kingsbury might be a college guy like that, where he hasn't had the success that you would think maybe in the NFL? Could you see Saban getting a guy like that?
I think he's too much of a gunslinger.
Yeah.
And yeah, they throw the ball around, as we know, and when they had all those incredible receivers, that was something to behold. But I think, first and foremost, Nick wants to be physical, and they've lost that. They've lost their level, let's put it that way, of physicality. I just don't think that's a good marriage. Cliff's making a ton of money not to coach. Said he was going to Thailand. You know, I don't know. I don't know if we'll see him at least this year.
Yeah, I don't either. We were. You think that Saban's going to get? Usually, there's a name attached to that OC job. If it's Steve Sarkisian, Bill O'Brien, just the guys that come through there seem to be have some clout to them. That's why I wonder who you thought might get in there. But it makes sense. They did lose that ability to kind of punch you in the mouth a little bit the last couple of years.
By their standards, last 2 years they have not been as good as they want to be on the O-line. And they haven't had a tough guy running back. And the Gibbs kid that they got from Georgia Tech is very explosive, as we know, but he's not physical. And they like to have a combination of that, and they're used to having a combination of that. And as we know, their receiving core, now, again, compared to their predecessors there, were maybe – I'm being nice if I'm saying average.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know another set of receivers that was that good, to be honest.
It's true. It's a tough comparison. True.
Yeah, it's almost unfair, but it's also, that's what you got to compare to, is what you had before. Saban also, made the headlines about at this coaches convention the other day. Turning down a couple of recruits that asked for $800,000 and another asked for $500,000 just to join the signing class. And I just wonder, I read Ross Dellinger in the Sports Illustrated, Bill, talked about that the NCAA is beefing up their enforcement staff, and that soon, I think, is expected, there'll be more policing of tampering in the transfer portal. But that's a whole different thing than the conversation of money going to recruits. And it's just what it'll take, because it does sound a little bizarre for a high school kid to be demanding, and it is, the word demand, I think, is the right word, demanding $500,000 to play at Alabama when he's never played a down for the school. It's going to take the coaches saying no. And Saban is in the position where maybe he can do that. I don't know. Maybe a lot of other coaches are not, but that's what it's going to take, right?
Not only was that part of the demand, but also in that $500K demand is get my girlfriend in law school and pay for it.
Oh.
How about that? And now that wasn't Bryce Young. But Bryce Young wants that, you're going to pay it, right? But yeah, I mean, I don't know what Nick is trying to emphasize there. I guess he's trying to say we're getting beat up too a little bit here, even as mighty as we are. But I don't believe the NCAA is going to do anything. Last thing I'm doing is reading and Ross does a very good job, but what the NCAA suggests they're going to do. They're not indicating they're doing anything with any of this mess.
I don't understand a lot of it. Let me change it up. I do want to ask you, we had one of the greatest ever to do it, and I don't think anybody ever thought his career, Tom Brady, was going to end up like this. Do you have a Tom Brady moment? Do you have something that just sticks out that you say, yeah, that was Tom Brady?
Yeah, it's probably not what you're thinking. I'm in Phoenix, Scottsdale, Tempe for the Fiesta Bowl, back when it was played in the right location, Sun Devil Stadium, and not Glendale, which is just awful. I hate that place. Anyways, and it's Tennessee, Nebraska going to play in a couple of nights in the Fiesta Bowl. We're in a bar, and it is Alabama versus Michigan Orange Bowl, which was one of the best Orange Bowls I've seen. Now, it wasn't as good as the 83-84 Miami game where they upset Nebraska. But anyways, and I'm sitting there watching Brady and coming back and forth. I believe it went to overtime. It was just a phenomenal game. And that was my first impression of him. And obviously, I'm not a big pro guy, so I knew all but the Super Bowls and saw him, but that would probably be my moment with him. Now, I didn't sit there, Matt, and say, okay, I'm projecting him.
Right.
Not at all. I just thought it was a marvelous performance, and it kind of made me go back to think about what he showed against you got to remember, that Alabama team actually was one of Mike DeBose's good teams. They won the SEC that year and beat Florida and Spurrier twice. Now, the next year they tanked, and he got fired for a bunch of stuff, but that was a good Alabama team they beat with Brady.
Speaking of another Michigan man, I know the Broncos have who their coach now, because they traded for Sean Payton. But man, I thought Jim Harbaugh, when he said he was going back to Michigan, he was going to go back to Michigan. And then there's the reports that he was still talking to the Broncos. And I know the situation with his former co-offensive coordinator got a little bit out of hand. He doesn't speak to the athletic director and everything, so I just didn't know what to believe there with him, because it looked like he was still looking for a specific job in the NFL.
Let me tell you, there's many different facets of Jim Harbaugh, and actually some of this I admire. Jim Harbaugh doesn't give a rip what anybody thinks about what he said about whatever topic. Whether he's staying or something political or anything. If he's up 50-0 on a team and they're on the goal line, he's scoring. And he doesn't care what the media thinks or what some, talk show guy, Bill King, thinks, or somebody on social media. And here's the other thing, like I told you. If he said he's staying and he doesn't stay, he could care less what anybody thinks about him going back on his word. He doesn't play like that. He doesn't care at all about that stuff.
So he's going to go where he wants
to go. They got their running back coming back. I saw that. I saw where Raheem Sanders was third on the list, but the kid from Michigan was number 1. I think Frank Gore was top 10. You like Frank Gore Jr.? I mean, he looks just like his daddy.
Yep, he's good. Blake Corum is the kid that Michigan, hurt his knee late, so we didn't get to see him after that. And then his backup rushed for 200 yards against Ohio State. Both of those guys are back.
Interesting. I saw it, and back to the National Signing Day thing here tonight. So we talked a little bit about Jaden Rashada, the kid who signed at Florida. Their collective reneged on $13 million. He's now signed at Arizona State. I had to laugh because he said that was his dream school. Like, all right. Well, you'd signed at 2 other schools before you signed at your dream school. It was just, but I mean, this was probably the one of the most heavily reported on recruits across the country, outside of maybe Arch Manning. But Manning, I guess, got what he needed to stay at Texas, and Rashad, I just wonder what Arizona State's given him, if much at all.
Nowhere near that number. Kenny Gillingham's the new coach, and he was at Oregon there briefly with Dan Lanning. And he's a hotshot offensive guy. we'll see if he wins there. The last guy that won there consistently was actually John Cooper before he left for Ohio State. But, and remember, he had Jake Plummer, and that was quite
Jake Plummer, yes.
Yeah. That's about it. I mean, there's no big
They had an Andrew
there.
Walter guy there, I think, that was coming out when I came out.
Yep.
Got drafted by Oakland. They had a little success. Yeah, you're right.
Sure.
Arizona State. Dirk Cutter was out there a little bit, but they've haven't done what they haven't excelled. Yeah.
It's tough, but yeah, we'll see. But I don't think he's getting $1 million.
Even your boy Sumlin going to Arizona. I mean, the Arizona schools. When you think Arizona, I think basketball. I mean, I really do. You think that Mike Bibby, Jason Terry. You think basketball when you think Arizona or Arizona State.
Well, Hermit.
You do, but I tell you,
James Harden, Arizona State.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, those two places are beautiful. Now, I know kids aren't necessarily looking at how pretty the lawn is when they're recruiting, but I'll tell you the other thing about Arizona State. It's the only other school besides Ole Miss where they redshirt Miss Americas. I'll just put it that way.
They got him out there. That's right. That's right.
Did I hear you say a moment ago you didn't like Glendale? Was there a piece of Arizona you're not a big fan of? Is it that stadium? What is it about there?
First of all, sometimes they act like it's Phoenix. It's not even close to Phoenix.
No, it isn't.
I was out there for the Oregon-Auburn National Championship, which was Cam Newton 2010, January of 2011. And I've gone to a million Fiesta Bowls. They're always at Sun Devil Stadium. It's right there on that campus. It's gorgeous. Everything, the campus is wonderful. You're right by Scottsdale Tempe. It's just beautiful. Glendale's an antiseptic, out in the middle of nowhere, waste of space. The facility is just antiseptic too. I don't like anything about it. I'll never go back. I don't care what's going on out there. It's terrible.
I've been to that. I've been to Tempe and Arizona State, and I walked over there. We were there for women's basketball, and I walked out of the basketball building during practice just to go walk around a little bit. The stadium is really pretty, and they were renovating it too. But you know how it is. I mean, you're not going to play a possible, a New Year's Six Bowl or a championship game, unfortunately, at a stadium like that. And I agree. I've been to Glendale. I've been there for a basketball game, for an Elite Eight game. And it's a bit of a weird-looking place. Before we let you go, I needed to get your thoughts on the last few weeks for Stetson Bennett since the championship. And obviously Georgia dealt with an incredible tragedy just the day after the parade, and maybe that's one reason, why whatever happened in Dallas happened. But on the other hand, I mean, I thought he acted a little bit odd at the parade, and that was before the tragedy occurred. And then there's what happened in Dallas too. I mean, so you skip the Senior Bowl in order to go prepare for the NFL draft in Dallas. And I just don't see preparing for the draft as, drinking until 6 a.m. and pounding on anybody's doors. Not like, people can, do what they want to do. But when you're preparing for the draft, I don't know. It's not like he's going to be a first-round pick or anything. But, I mean, this is going to just knock him down a few
Even more of a reason, right? Even more of a reason.
Yeah, I don't really have much background there yet. 6 a.m, sun's about to come up. You've been into the bottle a bit, and you're pounding on doors. Somebody gets scared, calls the police, and you're arrested. Now, in the grand scheme of things, it could be way worse, and he could have been behind the wheel of a car, which he wasn't. So that's the good part. But yeah, I mean, you got to be more responsible. But his bigger problem, guys, and I'm a huge Stetson Bennett fan, just the story. But he's not 6 feet. He's maybe 180. He's got a limited arm, and up there, he's not going to be able to run around like he does in college. I don't. If he maybe is somebody's third quarterback.
Bill,
that's about it.
Bill, I'm still waiting. You can make 7 figures as a quarterback in the CFL. Why does he not? You used to have more of that back in the day with your Warren Moons, your Doug Flutys. If I'm Stetson Bennett, I'm going to go be a face of a franchise in the CFL, make $1 million plus a year and play. I don't want to go be a third string and watch everybody else play. I mean, and you're probably making about the same amount of money to be a third string.
Yeah, and again, I don't have a good answer for him, but I would imagine he's been showing people what he can do. Now, Is he an individual quarterback that's getting 50 a game in basketball, in football terms?
But like a Doug Flutie, right? Like, I mean, he was an undersized guy that could throw it, go up there and learn the game, get in the right system. Maybe you come back and play a little bit. I'm just surprised you don't see more quarterbacks do that.
I know. It's ego. It's kind of like you have a guy that can play D2, but he can be a walk-on at a D1 place, so he gets to hang around. Now, again, I don't know if that's what he's thinking, but sometimes you just don't want to. Mentally, you won't allow yourself to do that.
Hold on one moment here, Bill. The last thing I got to ask you about, and it's about players that Arkansas has signed in the transfer portal. They've got 3 wide receivers that are coming from lower-level programs. You got a kid out of Hillsdale College Division II. You got a kid out of Bowling Green, the tallest receiver in all of Division I football, and then another out of Texas A&M Commerce who signed with the program in December. They've all been incredibly productive receivers. I find this one of the really more fascinating stories about Arkansas football for this next season is, getting open in Division II or FCS or in the MAC is a heck of a lot different than getting open in the SEC. I think it took Matt Landers a few weeks of playing before he was getting open on a game-by-game basis. I mean, what do you look when you're looking at numbers? Like, numbers mean something, stats mean something, but getting open also means something too. And to me, this is going to be fascinating about the Arkansas offense moving forward.
Yeah, there are a lot of guys that fall into that wide receiver category, though, and maybe not playing on high D1 levels. Who can play? Those guys are all over the place, and I wouldn't be surprised to see 1 or 2 of those guys, splash, make an impact. I wouldn't at all. Those guys are plentiful. You're never going to hear that we just brought in 3 6'4", 320-pound D tackles who eat glass for breakfast and sack quarterbacks, right? Mm-hmm. Those guys are there's not hardly any of those, but there's all kinds of wide receivers and running backs out there. It's a plentiful crop everywhere.
BetOnline remains your number one source for all your sports betting this season. Everything from the NFL and bowl season to esports. You'll find the latest odds, team matchup info, player news, and game trends at BetOnline. BetOnline features live betting, free contests, and live scores for almost any sport or game imaginable. We're the fastest and easiest way to bet on all your favorite leagues and events. Head to betonline.ag to join and receive a 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Make sure to use the promo code BELIEVE to receive your rewards. That's BLEAV. BetOnline, where the game starts.